how to deal with guilt or shame from past sins. Did you drink coffee during pregnancy? How do you keep yourself from getting too overwhelmed with so many things to tackle? So glad it appears that way. Actually, no, I'm not. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's video we're going to be doing a little Q&A. I feel like it's been a while since I've done one, so I put a little box over on my Instagram asking for your questions, and this is probably the most random group of questions I've ever gotten for a Q&A, so we're going to be a little all over the place, but also some of the questions you guys ask, let's just say we're going to get real with the answers. So I'm also going to be doing my makeup as we talk because I haven't done it yet, and so it's kind of just going to be like a little casual girl chat hangout, get your favorite drink. I've got mine over here. I'll tell you what it is in just a second because it actually relates to one of the questions. And then I will link all the products I'm using for makeup down below. I did already do my foundation just because I usually wash my hands after I put it on because it's liquid and I didn't want to have to get up and do that. So that's already on, but I use the Crunchy foundation in the shade 2.0. So we'll just go ahead and get into the rest of it. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. I make Christian faith and lifestyle videos, and I would love to have you here, and that's a huge way that you can help to support my channel, and then give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. So if you are drinking a favorite drink along with me, comment down below what you're drinking because I'd love to see it. So let's just get into it. If you've watched any of my vlogs where I've done makeup before, you know that I'm kind of notoriously bad about talking and doing makeup at the same time, but I really do, oh, that's not cute. I really do need to finish my makeup as we talk because I'm filming another video after this. So we're gonna try to be better about that. I did wanna say, I just cut my hair and got it freshened up for the first time since last May. So literally right around the time we announced our pregnancy. So it had been a long time and it feels really nice to have fresh ends, but let's get into it. So the first question I got was, I have them written down here. Somebody says, raw milk. I've heard of it, but I would like to hear more. So I'm guessing this person asked because I have been posting the drinks that I've been making on Instagram and mentioned that I use raw milk. I've also done some little grocery hauls over there and share that I get raw milk. So let me tell you a little bit more about it. First of all, my drink here, this is my favorite thing that I've been making recently. I look so weird with this concealer. But basically I've been getting the espresso pods for my Nespresso. So not just a full cup of coffee, but espresso shots, and making homemade lattes. And this one right here is a decaf espresso shot, raw milk, agave nectar, and cinnamon. I have made it with honey too. I think I might like the agave nectar a little bit better. So why raw milk? First of all, I'm not the expert on it, but basically around a year ago, probably right around the time that we had our miscarriage, if you didn't know, we did have a very early miscarriage, literally the month before conceiving Judah, our now 3-month-old baby boy. And when that happened, I was just kind of researching and looking into things to try to understand what could have happened. Obviously, a lot of times there's not really a reason, but I had kind of stumbled upon just learning about metabolic health, pro-metabolic health. And so a big account I was following and still follow for that, her name is Corey Malloy on Instagram. I'll have her linked down below. And she has a podcast talking all about metabolic health, and it can relate to fertility or being able to not just get pregnant, but also carry a pregnancy. And so a lot of times if just hormones can be out of balance, if there's issues with that. And so I started researching that, and there was kind of a lot of different things I learned. Highly recommend checking out her podcast and page if you're just wanting to learn more about women's health in general, because our cycles really are indications of overall health. But anyways, one of the things I came across when I was going through her page and just researching all the different information was raw milk. So I feel it's kind of it's very popular nowadays to not do dairy. A lot of people are either lactose intolerant or just don't feel amazing if they have dairy or whatever. And that was kind of always me. I never had a intolerance to dairy, but I did just notice if I had a lot of dairy, then I didn't always feel super amazing. And so I had gotten into sort of the trend. I think initially through doing the Whole30, I got into the trend of doing plant milks, so oat milk, almond milk, all that kind of stuff, which isn't necessarily bad depending on how many preservatives are in those kinds of milks. But raw milk, I just started to learn how oftentimes when people have a dairy intolerance, people are lactose intolerant, it's not actually the milk or the dairy that their body has a problem digesting. It's what happens to the milk in the pasteurization process. So when milk is pasteurized, it's basically getting out any harmful bacteria so that it's safe to drink. But that process also destroys a lot of the key nutrients in milk, because milk on its own has like the perfect combination of so many good nutrients for us. Like if you think about the fact that babies live off of just breast milk, like they can live off of just breast milk or formula, obviously, like it has all the perfect things that you need. And so a lot of times it's the pasteurization process that people actually have trouble then digesting. And so a lot of times if somebody is lactose intolerant, but then they start drinking raw dairy, which is unpasteurized, they have no issues with it. And so that's what I drink. Honestly, love it. Have had no issues, never feel any, like I never feel bad drinking it. And it honestly tastes like a million times better than regular milk. And so if you've never tried it, I recommend going to do that. I get mine from Sprouts, but I'm pretty sure they only sell the raw milk at their California stores because it comes from like a farm in Fresno, which is Central California. But I know there's like raw milk finders online if you don't live in California, that you can find them elsewhere. And in order to be safe, since they're not getting pasteurized and having like the bacteria killed out, they go through like a very rigorous, meticulous testing process just to make sure they're all good to go. So that's a little bit about raw milk. I'm sure there's a lot more that could be said, but that's sort of my knowledge base about it, and it is seriously so good. Another related question, I need to go quicker because I'm already spending way too much time on these questions, but somebody asked, did you drink coffee during pregnancy? And the answer is no, not really, only because during the first trimester it sounded disgusting to me. I feel like that's a really common pregnancy aversion, especially in the first trimester. It just sounded gross. And then probably about the 18-week mark, I stopped dealing with nausea, morning sickness, throwing up. I threw up like almost every day. So I started to feel better around the 18-week mark, but then I was getting really bad heartburn from coffee, like if I had a regular or even decaf cup of regular coffee though. But I noticed that I did okay with lattes because lattes have less coffee in it and then milk. And so it's a little bit less acidic. And so I did do that sometimes during pregnancy, but I'm also a big matcha girl. So I feel like I probably did more matcha. And then now with breastfeeding, I will have coffee, but I have decaf just because I feel like there's been a couple times I've had regular and then Judah didn't sleep well, and it's so hard with baby sleep to know, like, was it really the caffeine or was it something else, because there's a million different factors. But honestly, I don't really notice a difference with caffeine. Like, it doesn't really wake me up. I just drink coffee because of the taste. And so for me, if there's any chance it's affecting his sleep, it's just not worth it. So I've been sticking with decaf, and occasionally I'll have matcha. Honestly, I really miss matcha, but matcha does have a little bit more caffeine than decaf. So for the same reason, I haven't really been having that a ton. Okay, I'm doing a little bit better. Definitely doing my makeup more slowly than if I was just doing it, but we're making progress because I'm actually getting it done while talking. The next question was how to deal with guilt or shame from past sins. So the first thing that comes to mind here is the verse 1 John 9, which says, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. And so my first encouragement to you would be to confess those sins to God, confess them to maybe trusted people in your life. James 5:16 also says, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another so that you may be healed. And so oftentimes God utilizes that process of confession to bring us healing, but also just remembering the promise he gives us in that first verse I shared, 1 John 1:9, that when we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. And so if you have confessed your sins to God, if you've repented, know that he has forgiven you, and any condemnation, any guilt, any shame that you feel is not from him, it's from the enemy, who is the accuser of our souls. But the debt's already been paid by Jesus. And the other thing I'll say here is sometimes if you do have sin in your past that, again, you've already confessed, you've already repented of, but it still kind of keeps coming up, you still keep thinking about it, sometimes it is God bringing it back up, not to accuse us, not to condemn us, but to bring us a deeper level of healing. That maybe there's something more that needs to be processed through that. Maybe there's something that we just need to find freedom in through remembering some other component of it that we need to to bring before him and into the light. An analogy I always think on is just imagine that you're hiking and you've got, hiking shoes on and you're trying to get through the end of your hike and you have this pebble in your shoe and this pebble is just so annoying and it's like gnawing at your heel and you're annoyed because you're like, man, I just want to keep hiking. I don't want to take a break and stop to take this pebble out because it's going to slow me down and I just want to finish my hike. And then finally it's annoying you so much and it's just grating on your heel. So finally you take a break from your hike, you sit down on a rock, you take off your hiking boot, you get the pebble out, then all of a sudden you see that there's like actually this gangrene or this infection, which I know is a really gross analogy, but some more serious issue that's set in on your foot. And the pebble was actually a grace because it got your attention enough to sit down, take off the boot, and see that there was something deeper that needed to be addressed there, that needed to be healed there. And I feel like sometimes that's the case when something keeps coming to our mind, that God might allow it to keep coming to our mind because he knows there's kind of more that needs to be uncovered there. Again, not for the purpose of just exposing us or for the purpose of condemning us at all, but because he wants to bring deeper healing and deeper freedom to that thing. And so I would just say if there's something that keeps coming up, just bring that before God and ask him if there's more healing that he wants to bring to you. And remember that when God reveals something, it is for the purpose of bringing that healing. It is not to expose you. It is not to condemn you. I'm gonna do my eyebrows really quick because I feel like it's hard to talk and do them. 1 second. Okay, somebody asked top 3 baby products you can't live without. Exciting news, I'm actually finally gonna have my nursery tour go live a week from today, so next Tuesday. And I'm actually gonna be sharing in that video the top 5 baby products that we've really been using so far 3 months in, so stay tuned for that. Next question, how do you keep yourself from getting too overwhelmed with so many things to tackle? So glad it appears that way. Actually, no, I'm not. The answer is I don't. I don't keep myself from getting overwhelmed. I feel like I am just so task oriented. Literally my brain feels like just one continual to-do list through the day, thinking of the things that I need to do. And I'm really trying to work through that and to learn how to be present in each moment, to not be always so task oriented. But the answer is that it is easy for me to sometimes get overwhelmed with all the things that need to be done, especially in this season of being a new mama. And again, just having unpredictable, also hard to talk while doing eyeliner, but just having unpredictable schedules sometimes, especially with sleep. So one of the big things I'm learning is to try to be very realistic about my to-do list. I feel like before having a baby, I've always just been like really idealistic in terms of what I think I can get done. And then I'm like pushing myself or going a million miles a minute trying to get as much as I can done. And with the baby, I'm just learning I have to be very realistic about mapping out my day and saying, okay, here's how many pockets of times I'll have between feeds or during awake times, most likely. Again, not every day that's a guarantee. And what can I realistically get done during that time? And then another thing that helps me to not feel overwhelmed is to map out my week. So every week I'll say, here are the things that need to get done this week. And I do right now 2 days a week have help from my mother-in-law. She'll either come over here or I'll go over there and she'll help watch Judah in between feeds. So I'm still breastfeeding, but I'll have like little pockets of time in between those feeds to work on YouTube stuff and get that all prepped. And so typically I'll like map out my week and figure out what are the priority things that have to get done. And I'll schedule those for those days when I know I'm gonna have help. And then here's some things I'd like to get done, but may or may not get to them. And I'll put those on the days where the rest of the 3 days where I'm with Judah, and I'll plan those for that day. But then also every morning I'll organize in what order I'm gonna do things. So I'll try to strategically organize it and think, okay, today I'm by myself with Judah and he has a chiropractor appointment at this time and he has to eat at this time. And I know that he usually falls asleep in the car on the way home. So I know I'm gonna have a little pocket of time while he's still sleeping, and I can pretty much rely on that because he usually falls asleep pretty well in the car. What do I need to get done here? And so just like planning ahead, being realistic, strategically trying to map out the day according to the pockets and rhythms that I know we sort of have. So next question is, how are you feeling mentally postpartum? Thankfully, I will say that I have not dealt with postpartum anxiety or depression, which I know is a big thing. And I've been prone to anxiety and at times depression. And thankfully, I haven't dealt with any sort of postpartum anxiety or depression. I have been prone to, or I am prone to anxiety just generally in my life. And I have experienced depression before, mainly just like situational, not something that I've really dealt with ongoing. And thankfully those haven't been like big struggles. I will say actually maybe anxiety a little bit. There's times where you just have thoughts of worry of like, what if something happened here? What if something happened here? But thankfully it hasn't felt overwhelming. They're just like little thoughts that will pop in here and there that I will speak truth to or take before God and pray, or sometimes share with Tyler just to get it out of my head. But really it hasn't been super intense. I think it's just like probably what a lot of moms go through and just like the worries and stuff like that. And so I think overall I'm doing really well mentally. I think it was mainly just the overwhelm, especially in the beginning, that again, I'll have some days where I feel really overwhelmed and some days where I feel like, man, I'm getting this thing down. But I think that's been the big thing. But I will also just say that sleep deprivation is very real. And I feel like that can sometimes amplify a lot of emotions, whether it's just like, I don't know, whether it's like comparison or getting frustrated in different situations, or yeah, like there are times when Judah is like crying in the car because we're at a stoplight and he hates being stopped in the car and the red light is just taking forever, and I will just feel in myself like this like frustration with the red light, like, oh, turn because you're taking so long. Like little things like that I know are amplified by sleep deprivation. And so yeah, I would say that's how I'm doing mentally, is overall good, but yeah, sometimes overwhelm and sometimes anxious thoughts on different things, but for the most part, I think really good. So thanks for asking. Next is advice for using your summer for God as a single girl. And first of all, let me just say that I think this is such a beautiful heart desire to have, to recognize like I'm in a season of singleness where maybe I have more time than I'm gonna have in other seasons, or more freedom to do different things, and wanting to utilize that time to serve God. And so I think first of all, that's just a beautiful heart posture. And my encouragement to you would just be to bring that before God and ask him how he would want you to use your summer, and know that yeah, that heart posture really honors him, and he's gonna move through that. Like he's gonna show you what he has for you this summer. A couple things that come to mind would be things that are maybe gonna be harder to do when you are married or you do have kids. So maybe like short-term missions, or one of the things that I did every summer during my single years, and then also when the summer that Tyler and I were engaged, is that we were camp counselors for our church's youth group for summer camp. And that those weeks of going to camp with our students were always the most exhausting weeks of our lives, but also the most fulfilling and the most rewarding, just getting to be a part of what God was doing in our students' lives up at camp. And so those are some recommendations off the top of my mind. But again, I would just say to pray about it and ask God what he has for you this summer. Number 8 is, how do you like being a mom? And the answer is that I love it more than I could have ever possibly imagined. Like I could start crying right now talking about how much I love being a mama. Oh my gosh, wow. Emotions. And just how thankful I am for the gift of getting to be a mom. I feel like, wow, why am I like getting emotional? I probably tell Judah like 100 times a day as I'm just like staring down at his cute little smiling face that I just love being your mama, and being your mama is such a blessing, and I'm so thankful that I get to be your mom. And honestly, like I, growing up, always wanted to be a mom and be able to be home with my kids, and never really had like a strong desire for a career or anything like that. But then obviously was single for most of my 20s and did have a career and did fall in love with creating content on here and love those things and love getting to do those things too. And so it's really nice right now that I do have a little bit of help a couple times a week to be able to still do YouTube stuff, but also be with my baby while I'm doing that. And I love being able to create content and get some work done. But let me just tell you, my favorite times are still when the work is completely done and I can just be fully with my son. And so yeah, motherhood is just like truly the sweetest blessing, and I'm so thankful. It feels like just the sweetest gift of God's grace. And I have these moments where, like right now, Judah is super smiley and he just like looks up at me and smiles, and it's the sweetest thing in the world. And I just have this like really keen awareness that it's all gonna go so fast, that it's every season is gonna go so fast. But then I have these realizations that like, okay, this season of him being 3 months old and smiley up at me is gonna turn into him crawling or him doing these things that are gonna be so exciting. And even the other day, he like rolled over for the first time and I was just freaking out. And so motherhood is just like this really beautiful thing. It's, don't get me wrong, also one of the hardest things, but where you just get to continue to journey with them. And this really beautiful stage turns into the next really beautiful stage. And I think of friends like, I don't know, like my friend Tara, who has sons who are now like 14 and some of them are younger, but having these beautiful relationships with them that change as they grow. And so I'm just really looking forward to that, to enjoying, yes, this baby stage, but also as it moves into more of like the parenting and disciplining and training them stage and building those relationships. And so I love motherhood. That's my answer. Next question is, what birth control are you using / considering now? I understand women are highly fertile after birth. And so yes, that can be true, but I think it's just different for everybody. Right now I am exclusively breastfeeding, and a lot of times people will not ovulate or get their period if they're exclusively breastfeeding, but then also sometimes people can for sure get pregnant while breastfeeding. And so I, again, am currently 3 months postpartum and have not gotten my period yet. What we are using for birth control once we got the all clear is Natural Cycles. I actually worked with them before and talked about them before we had Judah, but essentially it's like a birth control app that utilizes natural family planning. And so you're taking your temperature and it's telling you when you're ovulating. The one thing about it right now though is that it's basically, because it tells you like it's a red day, you could get pregnant and you should either abstain or use protection, or it's a green day, you're not fertile right now, you're good to go. And right now it's pretty much just always giving me red days, and I think that it probably will until I get my first period back. I really don't have any plans on doing hormonal birth control just because of a lot of the research I've done on it, a lot of it coming from that Freely Rooted podcast that I was mentioning before. And also we know that we do want more kids, and sometimes that hormonal birth control can take a while to get out of your system. So that's our plan. I will share a link for Natural Cycles down below. I do have a code with them that I'm pretty sure is still active, so I'll check it and leave it down below. The code is Casey, and it gets you 20% off your yearly subscription to the app. And then I think maybe still the free thermometer with it, but I'll have that linked down below. Final question is, how did you find the motivation and dedication to work out? From a fellow C-section mama. So I did share my whole birth story. If you want to check that out, I'll have it linked above. And so I'm guessing this person is asking because I've been sharing some of my workouts over on Instagram stories. And let me just say that it is amazing what the female body does through pregnancy, through birth, and then postpartum, like literally sustaining and creating. Obviously God's creating the life, but through your body he is creating a life and allowing you to birth that life and then sustain that life through like breastfeeding. And it's absolutely amazing. But the reality in that is that your body does change a lot, and I think it's okay to appreciate just incredible design of what our bodies can do, but also grapple with the fact that your body looks nothing like it did before you got pregnant, and that can be tough. I just posted on Instagram this past Sunday, I wore jeans for literally the first time since having Judah, and that was like his 3-month birthday. And so that was my first time putting on a pair of jeans. It was 3 months later, and they were my loosest pair of jeans, and they were still a little bit snug. And so it's definitely not been like I had the baby and my body's now exactly like what it was before. Like it's not like the bounce back culture we see, like that's not reality. And so quite honestly, I feel like a big part of the motivation for working out was, one, to just feel good mentally, which I feel like has been a huge help. And then two, quite honestly, I feel like none of my clothes fit me the same. I feel like a big part of that motivation came from wanting to just feel comfortable in clothes again and feel a little bit more like myself. And so even though it has been really hard to make the time, I feel like I've been resolved to do that because I don't want to continue to feel like, oh, like nothing fits and I don't feel good in anything, and just allow myself to remain in that stage. Like I want to do what I can do to take control over changing that so that I just feel more comfortable. And so I've actually been doing a fitness program that my doula actually just came out with. So I've talked a lot about her before, Bridget Tyler. She has a whole channel here on YouTube talking about like pregnancy, birth, postpartum, all this stuff. And she, in addition to being a doula and like a lactation consultant, she's also a postpartum fitness like trained in that. And so she has a YouTube channel for that as well with some videos, and then a whole program that walks you through the postpartum period. And I love it because the first 6 weeks are literally just stretches you do in bed, because the focus during those weeks should just be like really healing. And then starting with 7 weeks, you do workouts, but it's like one workout a week is like a cardio workout, one is a strength, and those two are a little bit more like workouts. And then there's a stretching workout, which they still get more intense as the week goes on, but it's a little bit more relaxing. And then a progression workout. And so it's 4 workouts a week, but 2 are more on the like, I'm really gonna work up a sweat side, and 2 are a little bit more chill. And so that's been like a really manageable kind of balance for me. And then I love the way her program is designed because it gradually picks up intensity each week. So like the week 7 one where the real workouts start, I'm like, oh, this is totally manageable. And then like now I'm like week 13 of the workouts, even the stretching days are like stretch holds, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is like pushing me a little bit, but I love that. I love that it's challenging, but it like takes you at a good pace. And so usually I just work those in on like, usually his morning nap, he'll pretty consistently go down. And so I'll usually use that time to do a workout and then also shower and just put his little like rocker thing right outside the shower so I can see him. And so that's how I'm fitting it in, and just like, yeah, really trying to make it happen because I know that it's gonna make me feel better mentally, physically, all the things, and it really has been. I think also when it comes to the postpartum, really just accepting that it's going to be a slow journey. I'm definitely doing what I can to try to eat healthy for the most part, but I'm also making sure that I'm eating plenty, because especially with breastfeeding, you need that, you know, the nutrients first and foremost, but also a little bit of extra calories to make sure that your body's able to produce the milk. And that is my priority, not, you know, getting to my pre-pregnancy weight as quickly as I can. And so just accepting that it is going to be a slow but consistent journey. And I have thought about maybe making a video sharing some of that like postpartum fitness journey. And so if that's something that you are interested in seeing, leave me a little comment down below. Would you look at that? I actually have my makeup done. We got through all the questions, maybe a little bit on the longer side this video, but we did it. I'm just gonna quickly finish up my mascara. So there we have it, all done with the makeup and the hair. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and it just felt like a little, you know, friend-to-friend catch up. Since this was a really random Q&A, we're gonna go with a really random thing that I would love to hear from you in the comments. So right now I have been obsessed with the Cara, maybe it's Cara, not sure how you say it, but the oranges from Trader Joe's. They're like the really small oranges, and the inside is really bright. They almost look like grapefruit, but they taste really sweet. So that has been my favorite fruit lately, and I would love to hear from you down in the comments. What is your favorite fruit? So like I said, random question, but I'd love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.